What is up, duelists? Arts and Crofts here, once again bringing you your daily dose of Yu-Gi-Oh! GOAT format action. Today's feature match, we've got Mistral 97 versus Tal Mutante. As always, both players rated in the top 200 of the GOAT format. Dueling Book ladder at the time this match was played. Let's hop right into it. Looks like Tal Mutante won the RPS. They will be going first. They're going to lead out with a good old normal summon Breaker the Magical Warrior on turn 1. Just a big 1900 beater, not playing it into any back row. Definitely an interesting play, but something I can see people doing if you just don't have any better normal summon. Normally, players will wait until they can actually potentially pop something with the Breaker. But if you just really need to use a normal summon and Breaker is your best option when you just have a bunch of monsters in hand, I can definitely see doing this. And we'll see what they have to support it. Going to be 4 back row behind it, so maybe Breaker is their only normal summon, potentially. Kind of feels like a warrior deck, potentially, but of course we'll see. Mistral here going to draw for turn. No trap dust shoot. And we're going to lead out with a good old set monster. Activate level limit area B past turn. So Mistral potentially on a burn list. Would not be surprised. One of the few, strategies in the format that plays these battle floodgates. However, playing level limit into a known just breaker on the field, it's a little bit interesting when Tal Mutante can just go immediately pop it. I guess it makes more sense if you have a quick effect like trap here to answer the breaker before it can get to the main phase. Otherwise, interesting choice. But we'll see what some of these face downs are. We get end phase MST on this back row, yeah, and it is the ring. So Mistral was planning on going ring the breaker, have this level limit survive. But I feel like you have to expect the opponent to have some way to it's very likely that Tal Mutante is going to have like an MST or a Geki Break or a Dust Tornado or something set when they go set 4 on their first turn. So Mistral here just going to get plussed for free basically with the Breaker popping the level limit. If Tal Mutante chooses to do that, will be a very strong play and off to a solid start here for the blue corner player. Yeah, so we'll just go ahead, Breaker, pop the level limit. Now we can turn this Breaker to attack position if we so choose. Going to slam down Tsukuyomi as well, so getting 2 monsters on the field, 2,700 attack points worth of damage. Going to set a back row, I guess in case it's Morphing Jar or Desk Koala, and then slam into the set monster. It is just Milus Radiant. Okay, so Mistral here might be running some sort of Rescue Cat list. That seems to be what you would normally be playing Milus Radiant in. Maybe it's Cat Burn. Tal Mutante here doing what you should do against these burn lists, though, or suspected burn lists, getting a lot of damage on the board pretty quickly to clock your opponent before they can set up for their big burn plays or their combos. So 1,100 points of damage coming in early on with more to follow. Tal Mutante, as mentioned, in a really good spot, already +2 for the game with Breaker popping the level limit and then beating over the Milus Radiant. So, I was saying, turn 1 normal summon Breaker isn't always, a little bit of an unorthodox play. But Mistral just kind of played straight into it, and Breaker just looks insane now. So Tal Mutante really in the lead here. Oh, and we're going to get Time Seal out of Tal Mutante to prevent Mistral from drawing anything. So this might be that drop-off warrior list that runs like Jirai Gumo and stuff. That could be really cool to see. I don't think we've seen that yet on this channel, but it's definitely something that I have seen more frequently ever since Easy to Slay you won an Obelisk with it. So I wouldn't be surprised to see if that's what Tal Mutante is running here. And I feel like this is specifically very good against these like burn/combo lists, because the whole idea is you want to just keep both players at very, very low cards, right? More so than even a traditional warrior list. And when burn/a combo deck just doesn't have a critical mass of cards to do anything, they're in a really bad spot. So Tal Mutante playing really well here, has a favorable matchup, I think, and really in a dominant position here so far in game 1. Mistral going to draw, not going to draw for turn, thanks to Time Seal. Just going to set a monster in the way of this Breaker. Now, burn lists do often play a lot of big potential walls. You could even be on like Spy in certain burn lists. So no guarantee that Tal Mutante can get through whatever this is. But either way, still looking pretty solid. Gets to draw for turn. Summon the Sook, sure, go for the same play as last time. Run into a Cyberjar. Okay, so Mistral here having an answer here. This is going to be pretty fun. We'll get to see both players spin the top 5 cards of the deck. And this resolving is actually going to be really nice for Mistral, most likely, because they'll just get like I said, a critical mass of cards to start making some plays. This is happening in Tal Mutante's battle phase, though, so depending on how many and what types of monsters get flipped up, Tal Mutante could be in a situation to do a lot of damage here if their board gets filled up with monsters, while Mistral's don't. But for now, the board will get wiped, and we'll see what both players end up flipping into. Okay, so Mistral here, yeah, definitely on Cat Burn. We see the Last Will, which is part of the very, very important combo piece for when you find your rescue cats, as well as the Secret Barrels in the main. Pretty good. Exile plus Last Will is, of course, a nice little combo there to find your rescue cat, if you so choose. Tal Mutante, though, interesting stuff here. This might actually just be flip control playing Time Seal. That's pretty interesting. So we have the Tsukuyomi in the main. We've got Mask of Darkness. We've got Magician of Faith. So this is actually just maybe more of like a flip-flop, infinitely. I guess you can kind of Yada lock the opponent, right? If you can like set up Tsukuyomi, Mask of Darkness plus Time Seal. That's just like a Yatagarasu lock. That's pretty neat. Okay. So Tal Mutante bringing a little bit of spice here. Love to see it. Going to be able to, I mean, we just hit a bunch of good monsters off of this Cyber Jar, right? So you can summon the Sangan probably, or I guess, so Mistral is just going to have to set the Exiled Force probably, is my guess here. In Tal Mutante, probably you go set Faith, set Double Mask, and then I guess you just set the Sangan because Sangan's not going to be able to beat over the Exiled Force if it's in defense. So you probably just set it so that your opponent doesn't know, what card is what. So not going to be any big damage coming in here for Tal Mutante, despite the Cyber Jar going off in their battle phase. But both players will get some really interesting key pieces to their list here. And so I'm excited to see, both these strategies kind of go head to head now that they both seem to have what they need to make some plays. Yeah, Exiled Force here going to come out in defense position. Mr. also getting a couple burn cards. Secret Barrel, of course, a lot better post Cyber Jar when both players have a million cards in hand and on the field. So Mistral probably feeling a lot better about their position than they did a couple turns ago. But Tal Mutante is about to just fill the board with pretty valuable flip monsters. So could be tough for Mistral if they can't clear these out relatively soon. Heavy Storm is a nice find for Mistral, though, with Tal Mutante having a lot of back row here. I have to assume there's at least a Solemn set, but if you force out a Solemn when you're on a burn strategy, you're actually pretty happy with that. If Tal Mutante is willing to take 4,000 damage to protect their back row from Heavy Storm, you're going to take that every day. Yeah, I think you just set all 4 monsters if you're Tal Mutante. That makes sense to me. And then main phase 2, we can go Knock the Exiled. This is pretty smart, I feel like, because we know Mistral has the Last Will in hand, so this prevents them from going Exiled, pop a set monster, and to trigger the Last Will and potentially go for a combo. And then Tal Mutante is going to set another back row here into the known Heavy Storm, so maybe has the Solemn Judgment, but is willing to play out the game with only 4,000 life points from here on out, which is a little bit of a gambit. Heavy's going to come out, of course. Tal Mutante, yeah, forced to Solemn this, drops to 4k, which is pretty scary against these cat burn lists. Mistral has the Last Will to fire off here, so they must have something outside of the Exiled Force to trigger this, and will Mistral just go for a nice little OTK here, despite falling behind early? Cyber Jar is the great equalizer, and this could be a big turn for our combo duelist. Yeah, we got the Rescue Cat just hard drawn in the hand, didn't even need to find it off the Cyber Jar, just waiting for the extra combo pieces, I guess. We're going to go Cat into Panda, which is pretty massive right about now. Both of them are at 2,800 attack with piercing damage coming through. And we, of course, know what all 4 of these monsters are, so this could very well be a lot of damage. Last Will trigger happens, and we're going to grab Milus Radiant to power both of these up once more. So these are 3,200 attack point pandas right now. This could just be GG. Pretty nice. Why are we getting double Milus? We only used a single. Yeah, Rescue Cat gets double Panda. Last Will gets a single Milus, right? Oh, are we going Last Will into second Cat and then Cat into double Milus? If we just mill the Cat here, I guess that makes sense. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that was the play. A little bit of a shortcut there, but the first Cat tributed to go into double Panda. The Last Will triggered to bring out the second copy of Rescue Cat. That tributed itself to bring out the double Milus Radiant, essentially. And yeah, now the pandas are both at 3,800, so even bigger. Or is it 38? It should be 28 plus. Should be 36, right? That's math. Pretty sure. Either way, this is a lot of damage coming through. And Tommy Dante just has the Mirror Force. Anyway, that is pretty massive. And with double Mask of Darkness to regrab Solemn or Time Seal or Mirror Force, yeah, it definitely felt like Mistral. This was the big turn to go for it. Heavy Storm, of course, was not able to resolve, so they couldn't clear out the back row. Went for the combo anyway, and just going to run straight into Mirror Force. And now Tal Mutante is going to be in a really, really solid position. Yeah, Mistral going to set a couple back row. Sure. I mean, I guess Secret Barrel could do some stuff here, but Tal Mutante can just always... I mean, we don't have the Tsukiyomi to infinitely recur your Mask of Darknesses, but they're just some very, very good cards in the graveyard to start recurring. So either way, I think Tal Mutante in a pretty solid spot. So each Secret Barrel here does 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. So double Secret Barrel not lethal. Double Secret Barrel plus just Desserts is lethal, though, if Mistral is running that. So Tal Mutante does have to be a little bit careful here if they don't have a Solemn set currently. We're going to go flip Summon Faith, grab MST. Firing off the MST here, a little bit risky when you know Mistral is running, likely has double Secret Barrel set. We're going to go flip Summon Mask of Darkness, grab the Solemn. So really loading up the hand and field to make these Secret Barrels a little bit stronger. You got to be careful. Do it again, flip up the Sangan, start beating in for some damage. Sure. Hit for 22, and then saving the second Mask of Darkness for a rainy day. I guess the idea being maybe you want to recur the Solemn Judgment that you just grabbed back again. That definitely makes sense to me. And now we can go set a couple back row pass. Mistral, I feel like you kind of want to be firing off these Secret Barrels before Tal Mutante gets the chance to use their Solemn Judgment. Maybe. I mean, I guess keeping that at a higher life means that the Solemn will do more damage to them. But if they just can keep using these Solemns, it's like, you're never really going to kill them with the Secret Barrel, you know what I mean? A little bit tricky. Ooh, Mistral has the third copy of Rescue Cat in the hand, though. Can we just go into, like, Panda plus Radiant or something? Chip in for a little bit of damage and then Secret Barrel for game? Is this going to be it? Tal Mutante went for the Solemn regrab instead of the Mirror Force, so might not have the tools to deal with a little bit of a mini combo for Mistral, and that could be a fatal mistake here. Yeah, we're going to go for the third Panda. We got Death Wombat as well. Pretty nice. This is once again a 2,800 attack point Panda. We're going to Compulse the Wombat. Wow, okay, really interesting from Tal Mutante. Interested to see, I mean, I guess, so the Panda would kill itself at the end of the turn. So maybe you can afford to take a hit from the Panda and leave this Wombat around, or is Tal Mutante trying to like ring or something and wants Mistral to take the damage? Interested to see exactly what the play is here. Ooh, we got Premature Burial? Surely there's no Rescue Cat targets left in the deck, or at least any crazy ones. You would just go Premature on another Panda, bring it back? That doesn't seem too bad. We're going to MST it, though. Yeah, we knew that was likely on the board, because Tal Mutante regrabbed it with the Faith. So Mistral had to kind of expect that. And now we're going to Secret Barrel the opponent. Tal Mutante, if you Solemn this, you lose if you don't have anything to out this Panda. No other chains, so we're going to take 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. Sure. We're going to Secret Barrel again for another 14. Drop down to 1,200. Panda is now lethal over any of these monsters. Attack over the Faith. And Tal Mutante had the Sakuretsu armor the whole time. Okay, so that was the missing piece to the puzzle. I was like, surely we compulse the Panda if we have no way else of dealing with it. But the Saku is here all along. Panda, once again, not going to be able to get through. Going to hit the grave, and now maybe Tal Mutante has stabilized. Here at 1,200 life, last card on the board, likely that Solemn Judgment. Has a Mask of Darkness to maybe get back the Mirror Force now, or the Time Seal to just keep Mistral away from playing some stuff. And Tal Mutante might have barely stabilized here. Was able to stop 2 separate combos here after being able to reload the board with their, recursive flips. Really, really interesting game one here. But between two decks we don't often see on this channel. Mask of Darkness coming out here. Gonna grab Mirror Force. Cool. Saying, you know what? Panda is actually pretty scary. And then we can beat in for, this is 18, 28, 31 if they so choose, which is a 2-turn clock. Why are we taking damage in such weird increments? I'm not going to do the math, but I think that is, yeah, it was 31. They were at 39. So Mistral's going to go down to 800. Talmutante gets to pass with lethal on board. Set a bunch of back row. Mirror Force has to be one of them. We know Solemn is likely this one behind the Magician of Faith. And Mistral's got 3 cards to their name. 1,200 points more damage to deal, but getting through a Solemn Judgment will be a little bit tough. Needs essentially 2 burn cards. Ooh, Giant Trunade is actually huge. Talmutante, are you forced to Solemn Judgment this Trunade? This could just be a bait for Mistral. But once the Solemn is off the board, things are suddenly very, very scary for our flip control player. Talmutante has another copy of Solemn, though. Unless that was sandbagged. We're going to Solemn the Trunade, though. Drop down to 600 life points, but keep the rest of their back row around. Death's Wombat's going to come down. Attack in. Mirror Force going to come out. Yeah, Mistral says, sure, and just going to concede. Okay, just playing it out there. Talmutante Solemning the Trunade. Mistral couldn't punish the last remaining points of damage. And wow, what a game one there. Really back and forth. Mistral going for 2 very large, potentially lethal combos on this cat burn list. While Talmutante, had like an army of enlisted weenies here protecting them. But just had enough Solemn Judgment recursions, Mirror Force, and Sakuretsu armor at the right times to keep Mistral just far enough away from lethal damage to close this one out. And we will go to game 2 with this burn list going first. Really, really fun game to watch there. That was pretty interesting. All right, Mistral here on cat burn, going first. We are going to lead out with Pot of Greed. Pretty good start, going up a card. Into Set a Monster with a couple back row pass. See what Talmutante can do in the face of this. Graceful Charity, so both players opening a Trinity piece. Not too bad. Oh, and we got the Sinister Serpent for Talmutante to immediately go up a card. So answering the card advantage from this Pot of Greed. Pretty nice, gotta be happy with that. Discarding Nobleman of Crossout when your opponent has a set monster. A little bit interesting, but maybe you just have another copy of it in your hand. Yeah, just gonna fire off the second knock. You hit a Milus Radiant. Okay, so Mistral going with the turn 1 bait set with the Milus. So maybe has another jar in hand. We did see, despite Mistral losing game 1, how quick these decks can come back into it despite being behind once a single jar resolves. So setting up for potentially baiting out these knocks is definitely something worth doing. Talmutante, interestingly, discarded one off of Graceful Charity. We'll see if that comes back to bite them, because now Mistral knows that there are no potential knocks left in the deck since the card is semi-limited. Talmutante gonna go set a monster, set a couple back row pass. Now, if this face down is Magician of Faith, that could be a nice little stealthy way. Element of surprise, get back a knock, even if Mistral did actually go for a bait. But we shall see. Mistral finds Mind Control, so if the play was to go Faith, grab knock, that is not going to be allowed. We find Night Assailant. Okay, interesting. All right. You can just flip it up so that its effect can't be used. Run a normal summon Injection Fairy Lily, so Mistral just getting their beat down on straight up here. No cute cat will plays. We're just summoning the big beater and getting in for potentially 3,400 damage. Talmutante has compulsory evacuation device. I always have a hard time enunciating that card. But compulsory evacuation device is going to bounce the Lily back. But that's just a nice little +1 for Mistral, right? Lily can just get normal summon again next turn. A little bit of a tempo play for Talmutante. I guess the idea is this is a nice all-around card to answer stuff from your opponent. That if you're able to set up the flip-flop Tsukuyomi Mask of Darkness thing, the fact that it's a -1 doesn't matter because you're plussing every turn to make up for that. However, in a vacuum, when you don't have Mask of Darkness and Tsukuyomi to infinitely recur it, it is not the best card in the format, right? Especially when it's just bouncing Lily back to hand to come back next turn. Suddenly, Mistral is actually just like up a bunch of cards, it feels like. Gonna pass turn, Knight Assailant should go back. But yeah, Mistral should be in a pretty solid spot maybe. Ooh, okay, so Tal Mutante does have the Tsukuyomi though to go set this Knight Assailant back again face down. So basically, this mind control was just a complete blank for Mistral. So Tal Mutante fighting back with the Tsukuyomi to reset their flip monster. Mistral, of course, knows about it, but the Maneater bug effect can be kind of difficult for these like Earth aggro-esque lists to get over. This isn't like Warrior, where they have a lot of ways to blank flip effects, like Blade Knight and Mystic Swordsman and stuff. Earth lists generally struggle against Maneater bug effects, so Tal Mutante already able to assemble this combo is quite strong, and Mistral might have to just like take a turn off to beat over the Knight Assailant with a monster, giving Tal Mutante more time to put up the shields and making it a little bit more awkward and keeping the game state more complicated. And at the same time, Tsukuyomi does represent a clock, gonna hit in for 11. Mistral does have the gravity bind just to protect their life points. That's totally fair. And now Tal Mutante at least doesn't have a clock, so Mistral, despite, having this pretty devastating combo online against them, will be able to draw up into, some potential plays down the line. Ooh, I spoke too soon. Tal Mutante has the Mystical Space Typhoon here early on in the game, going to answer this Gravity Bind, force through the 1100 points of damage, and the shields are down for Mistral now, unless they've got another copy of these Battle Floodgates floating in the hand. Mistral, a lot of stuff to deal with. Sook in hand as a clock. Knight Assailant on the board that can get reset by the Sook. Really tough here. Oh, Sangan is probably the best answer in the list to that, though. Sangan's going to come down. This is just a nice little +1 if it can connect over this Knight Assailant, because the Sangan will float. And Tal Mutante is going to have to... Wow, so we're going to Raigeki break the Sangan. At least has the known Sinister Serpent in hand, so that it's not just a straight -2, but forced to -1 themselves to keep this Knight Assailant around, which is, it's quite a heavy investment. But like I was mentioning, Knight Assailant's a very, very good card against these lists, so I can understand wanting to protect it, even if it's going to cost you a lot of advantage. Especially when Mistral has like Lily in hand and stuff like that they really want to set up for. Now, if Mistral's able to find like a Mystic Swordsman off of this Sangan, though, that could be pretty nice. They're going to go for Cyberjar, though. Okay. Nice play when your opponent used both of their knocks already, or discarded one. And so now Tal Mutante might come to regret the discard of knock off of this Graceful Charity. Cyberjar won't be able to get played for a couple turns, of course, since the normal summon is already used. But that's a pretty massive threat that Tal Mutante doesn't seem to be super equipped to deal with at this point in time. With both knocks in the grave, a Raigeki break already used, might be a little bit tough. Mistral going to set a back row pass. Tal Mutante has to kind of set up something here. Knight Assailant doing some good stuff, but you invested a lot to protect it. And, I mean, actually, you know what? I guess Knight Assailant is itself an out to Cyberjar. So maybe that's the idea. Maybe you're not actually scared of any of Mistral's potential Sangan searches because Knight Assailant answers them. Man, Mistral would love to find an Nobleman of Crossout if they're playing it in this list. Serpent going to hand there for Tal Mutante, getting good use of that so far this game. Breaker is going to come down, likely pop a back row before slamming in for 16. See, hits a Secret Barrel, so Mistral forced to chain it, going to hit them for 2, 4, 6, 8, 1000 damage, 1000 damage, which is pretty below rate, so, small one here for Tal Mutante, forcing a suboptimal usage of the Secret Barrel, and you get to start beating in for 1600, which is pretty nice. So Tal Mutante, small win this turn, has another clock on board with the Sook in hand to add to it if they so choose. And Mistral actually does kind of really need to out this Knight Assailant soon. Otherwise, they just won't be able to make any sort of good plays. Ooh, Exiled Force is a great out to the Knight Assailant, though. Gonna go pop it. And now, finally, they've set up... We can go Lily next turn to start beating in for damage. We can set Cyberjar to, draw into more cards. A lot of options available to Mistral now that this Knight Assailant is off the board. We'll see if Tal Mutante has any other potential outs to the threats that we know Mistral has in hand. Tal Mutante just going to pile on as much damage as possible. Sook come down, 2,700 points of damage to the dome here. And Mistral will drop down pretty low, 2,600. So this is representing lethal. So honestly, if Tal Mutante just has like a Raigeki break or even a Compulse set, right, could be a little bit rough because the tempo advantage might just be here. And Mistral finally was able to, deal with this Night Assailant, but it took several turns. Sanga got answered, Exiled Force got answered. Sure, it cost Tell Me Tante a lot of cards to do that, but it bought them a lot of time to do a bunch of damage and really potentially force Mistral to go for a little bit of a, invest in a play when they might not have everything they need to go for lethal. We're going to go end phase or main phase 2 just desserts here to hit the opponent for 1,000. Do we have Ojama Trio to chain potentially? No, it's just going to be another 1,000 point damage burn card, which is very, very far below rate, but maybe Mistral thinks with the Lily in hand, potentially they can deal enough. I feel like you're pretty close to losing here, though. You only have one Lily activation left in you now. Tell Me Tante did a very, very good job of being as aggressive as possible. Knowing Mistral had Lily in hand, so you want to deal as much damage to them to limit the number of Lily activations. And suddenly Lily on its own is no longer really that big of a threat. Sure, it can come in, beat over Breaker, but Mistral will have to drop down to 600 to do that and not even get Tell Me Tante close to dead. So, a little bit of virtual card advantage here from Tell Me Tante, using the aggression to remove options from Mistral's side of the field. So maybe Mistral is just kind of forced to set Cyberjar and Prey here. Yeah, that didn't shuffle their hand, so pretty likely that this is that Cyberjar. And either it resolves and we have a game, or Tell Me Tante answers it, and this is probably just GG. Breaker's going to attack in. It is the Cyberjar, so no out to it. We're going to spin the wheel here once again in Game 2. Game 1, it went Tell Me Tante's way because they just set up double Mask of Darkness plus Magician of Faith and just outgrinded Mistral. But could be some interesting stuff here in Game 2. Let's see. Tell Me Tante found Dust Tornado. Ring is pretty nice in a world where your opponent is at 2,600. Notably dead to BLS. But no Lights engraved just yet. So BLS gonna go to Tell Me Tante's hand, but doesn't have it live just yet. Gonna get a light on the board at least, but a little bit far off from going for the BLS ring combo. But this is something Mistral's gonna have to be very, very aware of with them being so low on life. Magic Drain is another interesting card here from Tell Me Tante's list. I guess when you're playing Mask of Darkness, you can afford to play some of these suboptimal traps, maybe is the idea. Because you can just kind of use it as like a trap toolbox, essentially. So Magic Drain coming out here to pair with the Compulse. Tell Me Tante, yeah, we're just going to go set the Faith, of course, and then get a bunch of stuff in hand. So once again, Cyberjar going off in Tell Me Tante's battle phase, but actually just, drawing into a bunch of flip monsters here, which, to be fair, is what the deck is designed to do, but not going to be able to capitalize on the potential big damage that other decks are capable of when they trigger the opponent's Cyberjar during the battle phase. Mistral here, what did we find? So we knew one of the Miluses was banished already. So Mistral found double Panda plus Milus Radiant. Just a massive board right out of nowhere. Okay. Plus Gravity Bind, which is pretty nice. Plus Ojama Trio. Probably wish that they held onto that just desserts. But this is a pretty nice hit for Mistral off of the Cyberjar. Going to get a lot of damage on the board very quickly, which is important when Tell Me Tante is likely going to be trying to finesse their way into a BLS plus ring scenario. So Mistral's going to have to put the pedal to the metal, but Cyberjar definitely going to help them out with that by, finding them with a pretty strong board here. Double Panda, going to get the Bind and the Trio in hand. Bind going in the hand doesn't really matter too much because Tell Me Tante is not going to be able to attack with anything this turn anyway. Dust Tornado could snipe the Gravity Bind, though. Have to be aware of that. And then Tell Me Tante just going to go ahead and set this Magician of Faith, of course. Main phase 2, just probably going to set most of the hand. I mean, I guess Tell Me Tante could have gone like... There is actually a world where you go summon the Faith in attack position, like crash into the Milus Radiant to get the Light Engrave. And then main phase 2, you can go summon BLS, set Ring, and try and win that way. We haven't seen any like Book of Moon or anything out of Mistral, so that does seem relatively likely to actually work. So Tell Me Tante not going for that play. We'll see if, maybe they're so confident, maybe they have like triple Solemn Judgment in hand or something, and there's just no way they lose. But that would have been a pretty cool line to go Crash, get the Light Engrave, set up the BLS ring play. Just to close this one out quickly. But we'll see exactly how this one works out. Tamitante is just going to go set a bunch of back row. And yeah, I guess hadn't normal summoned this turn, right? The breaker was left over. So going to set another monster alongside the Magician of Faith. Mistral here has, a lot of damage on board. These are 18 plus, these are 2200 attack point piercing damage pandas. Oh, sorry. So I did my math wrong last game. I think I'm going to get some comments on this, probably. I forgot, Milas is 500 attack points, but it decreases. I just saw the 400 and was adding that to the pandas last game. But it's actually plus 500 to the pandas, right? So it's like an extra monster on the board, essentially, to make the calculations easier. So these pandas are both at 2300. So these are pretty beefy boys. Mistral going to set a monster, set a bunch of back row, all before going for this attack. Really interesting. Maybe worried that Ton Mutante has Morphing Char of their own. No, not even going to attack here. Okay, doesn't want to trigger the opponent's Magician of Faith just yet, potentially. Or maybe worried about Mirror Force. Oh, but I feel like Ton Mutante can pretty easily set up for this BLS ring play if they want. We're going to end phase Dust Tornado on one of the back row, hitting a Secret Barrel. That's pretty nice with a lot of potential damage coming through. I guess Mistral here. So notably, Tal Mutante played into a potential trio lock, right? They set an extra monster when they didn't have to, when they knew Mistral had Ojama Trio. Maybe was banking on sniping the trio with the Dust Tornado, but that doesn't seem particularly strong to me, especially when, if you want to make progress this game, you probably want to be saving this Dust Tornado for the Gravity Bind that we know is in the back row as well. So Tamitante might get punished by this trio locking them out of the game, and Mistral can start pounding in for a lot of damage, and Tamitante won't be able to summon their BLS anymore and get Ring Live. So maybe a little bit of an unforced error there. We'll see if Tamitante has a plan, though. Standby phase trio, as expected. Going to fill up Tamutante's board. No other chains. Go to main phase 1. We're going to just desserts for 2500. That is a lot of damage here in the standby phase. Oh, but Tamitante is going to ring the panda. Interesting. Okay, so Tamutante is going for a little bit of an interesting play here, saying, let's bait my opponent into summoning. I mean, it's not even a bait because we knew the ring was here. But Mistral's gonna go trio, powering up this panda to very, very strong, especially with the Milas on the board. This is a 3800 attack point panda, right? And now ring on the panda is just lethal, right? So Mistral potentially powering up their panda too much, such that the known ring from the opponent is just going to kill them. Is that going to be enough? There it is. It's GG. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Yeah, so Mistral not making... I mean, Tamitante, cute way to win. Like I said, you could have just summoned BLS and done it on your own turn, but maybe that's not as cool as killing your opponent with their own panda that they intentionally powered up. So extra points to Tamutante for style here, with basically the self-kill coming out here from Mistral. And that's going to be a 2-0 Tamutante's flip control list. Pretty interesting. Mask of Darkness with a bunch of crazy one-off traps that you don't normally see. Going to take it down 2-0 against Mistral's Cat Burn list. Game 1, Mistral had a couple combo, shots open, but Tamutante had the Solemn Judgments, the Mirror Forces, the Sakuretsu Armors at just the right time to keep them away from exactly lethal, and then ground out the opponent from there. Here in Game 2, Tamutante also in a pretty decent spot from early on. But once again, Cyberjar resolving, making things interesting, and then Tamutante finding this pretty cool kill with the Ring of Destruction on the opponent's panda after it got powered up by Mistral's own Ojama Trio. Let me know what you think about this, guys, down in the comments. This was a pretty fun one to watch. Some pretty interesting games with some very unique board states. Cyberjar is very good at creating those, of course. So really cool stuff. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. I will catch you all next time.